Everyone has an opinion about Canadian federal politics.
Oh, yeah.
Tonight, a new call for Prime Minister Justin Trudeau to step down from a Liberal member of Parliament. In a leaked email obtained by CBC News, Wayne Long is asking the Liberal caucus to support a push for Trudeau to resign as party leader.
Hey gang, what's up? Just Aaron right here, Question Period Canada. It really does sound like Trudeau's future leading the Liberal Party could be in jeopardy. Big loss on Monday night, huge. Come from behind victory for the Conservatives, good on them, but that was a seat the Liberals were not supposed to lose. Many people are questioning Trudeau's leadership. We've got even CBC stepping up their game, doing some real journalism. We're going to take a look at some of those pieces, and we're going to look at the ministers, the nasty, sinister ministers that are still saying they're supporting Trudeau. We had a Liberal caucus member email the Liberal caucus saying he needs Trudeau gone, like the party does for the future of the country and the party. It's very interesting. Maybe tick, 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 time might be up for Trudeau. Who knows? We're going to take a look and a listen to some really interesting pieces. We've got a reporter here that was able to overhear Stephen Gilbo while he was at a train waiting station. So, train terminal, whatever. Very interesting stuff. Let's take a look and a listen. Hopefully Trudeau is done. Maybe the time is up. That was a huge loss on Monday. That seat has been held by the Liberals for over 30 years. Almost 40. And well, tick, tick, tick. Trudeau, time's up, buddy. Poilievre's next. Move over, guy. Let's take a look and a listen to what's been going on.
But we're going to start on that email from a Liberal MP to caucus calling for Prime Minister Justin Trudeau to resign. The first open push for a leadership change from inside the caucus. The CBC's Aaron Weary is here with me now. So Aaron, walk us through this Wayne Long email.
So yes, the latest is that Wayne Long sent this email to essentially all of Liberal caucus, a kind of message to all of the MPs, saying, it's a fairly brief message, saying that he believes it's time for a new leader. Wayne Long is not a stranger to some disagreements with the party, going back to 2017 when he disagreed with their position on small business tax reform. Mm-hmm. So he's always been a bit of an independent-minded MP. So it's not entirely surprising that he would be, a bit on his own on this, or at least, sort of outside the circle on that. But this is, as you say, the first time we've had from within the Liberal caucus an expression of the idea that the Prime Minister needs to go.
Right. So I think we have the email here that we can maybe show you. It's from Wayne Long it's 155 people on this email list. It says, for the future of our party and the good of our country, we need new leadership and a new direction. And he writes this after reflecting on this week's defeat in Toronto St. Paul's and seeing the response, I want you to know clearly and directly where I stand. So he says that's what precipitated it. Now, Aaron, I've been talking to Liberal MPs. Ken MacDonald, the MP from Avalon, also a critic of the government, he replied to this with, well said. I'm told then Mark Gerritsen, who's a Kingston area MP and a supporter of the Prime Minister, replied saying, for those of us planning to run again, using reply all to vent isn't helpful. Please feel free to email me directly. And just a few minutes ago, I was told that Chandra Arya, who is a Liberal MP here in Ottawa, replied all, criticized the Prime Minister for taking the party too far to the left and accused the Prime Minister and his senior staff for making some strategic mistakes, but says, we've accomplished a lot. He's been a consequential Prime Minister, and I still support him, and I will be happy to run under him. So it seems like Wayne Long, whatever his intentions were here, has burst the dam for an aggressive conversation in the caucus.
Yeah.
Add to this conversation now with a discussion and a focus on the private conversations that Environment Minister Stephen Gilbo that he never intended to share publicly, let alone see in the pages of the Toronto Star. Gilbo has been reaching out to Liberal MPs, rattled by this week's by-election loss, but he made the mistake of making these calls and discussing what he heard while sitting in the business lounge of a Via Rail train station where he was sitting within earshot of Justin Ling, a freelance journalist and a contributing columnist for the Toronto Star, who published what he heard in the column you see there on the screen. And Justin Ling joins me now. Okay, so Justin, a lot's happening today. What did you overhear sitting next to Stephen Gilbo?
I mean, I heard the environment minister sitting there in the business lounge of Union Station, hitting the phones, doing outreach, recapping his last few days in Toronto, which involved some one-on-one meetings with several Toronto area MPs who are, in his words, he said in one French conversation, "10A." They're annoyed, they're frustrated, and they're tired, and they're stressed out. He was feeling the temperature of the Toronto area caucus to see if any of those MPs were willing or interested in calling for the Prime Minister's resignation. He was trying to figure out what they wanted, what would make them happy, what the Prime Minister, what the Prime Minister's office needs to do to keep this caucus together and to save his own skin, to save the future of the party, and to win the next election. Those conversations were held quite loudly, I can tell you, and within my earshot. I didn't really do much to try and pick them up, but I can tell you that in the hours afterwards, on my 5-hour train ride on a very delayed train back to Montreal, I had conversations with several members of caucus who had not heard from Gilbo, but who confirmed the details that there is a sedition caucus inside the Liberal Party, as one MP put it to me, and they are pretty unhappy.
Okay, so you overheard Stephen Gilbo. He issued a statement today saying one-sided conversations taken out of context do not reflect the open and honest exchanges that I routinely have with my colleagues. As I have said publicly many times, the Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, has my full support. Now, Stephen Gilbo was calling around in support of Justin Trudeau. This is an important thing to speak about, because when you say there's a sedition caucus, he is definitely not one of them. But what did Stephen Gilbo and the Prime Minister's office and everyone say to you when you followed up with them on what you overheard?
Yeah, it's really important to note that the Gilbo was, I think, doing the best he could to try and keep caucus together, although he did say pretty bluntly, I heard him on more than one occasion say that there is a campaign to push the Prime Minister out the door, and that he was not 100% sure that the Prime Minister could survive this, that ultimately it was up to the PM to heed those concerns and to respond to them, and if he doesn't do so effectively, he's out of the job. Now, I reached out to Gilbo, I reached out to some of the MPs who were identified to me as those who may be staging the revolt. I reached out to PMO. Of all of those requests, only PMO responded, and they didn't tell me much. All they did was confirm that the Prime Minister is making calls to some MPs, but they really did not extrapolate much beyond that. Right. I've spoken to members of caucus over the last 24 hours who have told me that they're starting to lose their minds because they're expressing to the Prime Minister's office what level of change and reform and action needs to happen. And thus far, they've seen, as one MP kind of put to me in a text, zero zilp, nada, zippo. Like he kept inventing new ways of saying zero, nothing at all. So I think people are starting to freak out a little bit.
Okay, I want to get thoughts from you and Aaron, but I've also been talking to a lot of members of the Liberal caucus. They want change, though they can't articulate specifically what the change might be and how it could turn things around for them. But loyalty to the Prime Minister is saying it's up to him to decide. You think it goes further. Who are the seditious MPs you've identified in your reporting, and what is the sort of change they want to see from Trudeau?
So this is really interesting because last night I spoke to one member of Parliament who had someone read aloud the letter that Wayne Long published today. He did not have a copy of it, but he had seen it at the very least.
Interesting.
I was told that there was several other MPs who had considered signing that letter. Their names ultimately didn't appear on it when Wayne Long sent it to caucus today. I just got off the phone. You saw me on the phone before we started the show talking to someone in caucus who told me that the momentum seems to have stalled on that letter, that people are now playing a wait-and-see approach, Ken MacDonald being the only MP to sort of express support for it. 3 or 4 others who had originally signaled their support for the letter aren't there, and they've been rather quiet. One of them responded basically saying this is the wrong way to go about it. There may be 15 to 20 MPs who are this sedition caucus, but the majority of the Liberal Party, those 150 some MPs, are waiting to see if the Prime Minister and the Prime Minister's office is willing to reform itself. They have a list of demands. They vary across the country, I think, but the one thing I've heard consistently has been they want to see changes in cabinet. They think there are underperforming ministers. Raj, I know, has just reported and confirmed some of those. They include Chrystia Freeland and Melanie Joly. They want to see changes in the staff of the Prime Minister's office. They want to see concerns from Caucus actually being listened to, heeded, and they're tired of the sort of father knows best approach that's been employed by the Prime Minister for now 9 years in power.
Do you think Trudeau's going to come out and call Wayne Long a racist or somebody that has something against children? Like, that would be what I would expect Trudeau to do. That's from the playbook, the Trudeau playbook. Trudeauing. So let's listen to some of the sinister ministers of Trudeau's corrupt cabinet that say they still have Trudeau's back. How tone deaf are these people? My goodness.
The Prime Minister, the right person, the current Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, the right person to lead your party in the next election?
Well, as I've just outlined, the many programs that have been underway over the last number of years, those programs were spearheaded by our Prime Minister, by his vision, by his dedication to Canadians.
I think he's the best place to beat Pierre Poilievre, who, as I've said publicly, is a fake.
The Prime Minister has a deep love for this country. Life is hard for Canadians right now. He understands that.
None of the members of Parliament or ministers that I've spoken to have told me that they think that the Prime Minister should go.
Well, look, I think it was disappointing. I knocked on doors there. We knew it was going to be tight, and I think Leslie's phenomenal, so I was disappointed. But David, I've been around a long time. I've seen all kinds of different by-elections. I'm very careful not to read a lot into an individual result. I think, we really need to make sure that the takeaway here is that we work all that much harder, that we focus all that much more on the people in this country who are having a difficult time. These are very difficult times globally. People are struggling. And they want a government that is doing everything humanly possibly to help them. And so for me, it means focusing that much harder on making sure we get people dental care, that we get people diabetes medication, that we get people contraceptives, that we continue the really positive, good things that we're doing in our health system. So I think we're building a really great story in a very turbulent world for Canada's leadership. Don't think anybody would want to trade Canada's position right now with any other country in the world, but it's a tough time to be a human being. And certainly that's what you heard at doors.
Right, but you said you've been around a long time, and that can be an asset in politics, but it can also be a liability in politics, right? Because people get to the point where they just want change and they're not listening anymore. The consensus I hear from talking to Liberal MPs and Liberal staffers is something needs to change. So is that message? Is it staff? Is it the Prime Minister? Is it the Cabinet? What do you need to do to change? Because just working harder doesn't seem like it'll necessarily get it done.
Well, I think there's one thing Canadians want, and that is a government that is only focused on their betterment and well-being. And so I think the answer is very simple: to wake up every morning and give your absolute best and put in every ounce of effort you have to making the country a better place.
Globe and Mail. Deputy Prime Minister, can the Prime Minister still stay on to lead the Liberal Party into the next election, given that you just lost one of the safest seats in the entire country last night?
Yes, he certainly can.
Can you explain why? Because everybody we're hearing from behind the scenes believes that the result last night means catastrophic losses across the country. If you cannot win in Toronto under Justin Trudeau, why should anybody believe you can win anywhere else under him?
Our government is focused on working hard for Canada and Canadians and on delivering results for Canada and Canadians. That is what the Prime Minister is focused on. That is what we are all focused on. The Prime Minister is committed to leading us into the next election, and he has our support.
Next question. Hi, Minister. Barbara with iPolitics. Still about last night's results in Toronto, St. Paul's. Do you think the Liberals need a radical change in strategy and that perhaps a new leader in the party might be a necessary change?
I just answered that question. Let me say the Prime Minister is focused on delivering for Canada and Canadians. Our whole government is focused on delivering for Canada and Canadians. That's what we're going to continue to do. The result in St. Paul's is certainly disappointing. We knew it was going to be a hard fight. I think it's especially disappointing because so many of us know Leslie. We know how hard she and her team worked. And I do also want to congratulate Don Stewart. He and his team worked hard as well. We know that these are hard times for Canadians. We know that we have to work hard to earn back their trust.
This is Mike Cole, like nailing Ryan Turnbull, who looks like he just got hit by the short bus. Ryan Turnbull's a goof.
Michael Cole, CBC News, on behalf of CBC Parliamentary Bureau. Can Justin Trudeau stay on as the leader of the Liberal Party of Canada?
Can he or will he?
In the wake of last night's, does he still have the confidence of the government of the party?
Well, that's a good question. I think it's too early to tell that exactly, but I think that most of us support his leadership, and we always have. I think the Prime Minister has made it clear that when his time comes and he decides to walk away from the leadership, he will do so. But I don't think that now, I couldn't pronounce on whether he can lead the party in the future or not. I mean, I feel like he's a great leader. I feel like last night's by-election loss was a disappointment. So coming out of that, I mean, I think you're asking me to answer a question that I think is a little bit early. I think people are reflecting on, what that result means.
But most of all, I want to thank the people of Toronto St. Paul's for exercising your right to vote and making your voice heard.
Hi, Minister. Good to see you again. Thank you so much for making the time.
Thanks for having me, Vashi.
Minister, should the Prime Minister resign as leader of your party?
No.
Why not?
So everyone, what do you think? Is Trudeau done? It kind of feels like he has to be. Like, it doesn't make sense anymore. I don't want to think I'm a crazy person, but I watched this guy being successful. It's just hard to register, like, what is right and what is wrong with this current government. I believe I'm a good person, but man, it gets confusing out there with this Liberal government. They're going to call me a racist or say I don't like children or something just because I'm tired of their politics. The Liberal playbook. It's a dirty game. My name's Aaron. This is Question Period Canada. We've got this great channel. Like, subscribe, share, comment, get notified. We do live shows. That's fun. That's it. We are trying to learn about Canadian federal politics. It's a tough game. That's all. We will have more videos, so make sure to like, subscribe, share, get notified, all those fun things. Please leave a comment. Love the comments. I'm Aaron. This is Question Period Canada. We're out for now. We'll catch you next video. Thank you for watching this one.